Did you know that from 2017 to 2020, WagerTalk charged $795 for a season of either college football or NFL? Well, we know how important our season-long customers are, and we want to increase the amount of money you save by committing a season-long package. While most of our competitors continue to raise their prices, we are doing the exact opposite. We've lowered our price for both the NFL season and the college football season to only $5.99 each. But through Sunday, August 14th, we are offering an early bird special, saving you an additional $100, making your NFL or college football season only $4.99. That's under $23 per week. Make sure to take advantage of the early bird prices before midnight, Sunday, August 14th, as they will return to the still low price of $5.99 per sport per season. You know the NFL preseason is already underway, and the college football season kicks off Saturday, August 27th. There is no coupon needed and no limit to the number of packages you can buy. Just head to your favorite handicappers page and take advantage today.
Welcome into First Pitch. I am Drew Martin, joined by Brian Leonard and Tony Finn. This is Thursday, August 11th. We're breaking down 3 games on the slate for tonight and this afternoon. We got best bets at the end. We're going to be talking Cardinals and Rockies, Orioles and Red Sox, and then the Field of Dreams game here, the Cubs and the Reds. Huge shout out to everybody joining us live on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Feel free to chime in the chat box what you're looking to bet. Any questions, more than welcome. Let's get into it, guys. We got the Cardinals and the Rockies actually going off in a little bit more than an hour. First pitch a mile high. We're getting what a competitively priced game here. Brian, can start off with you. Hudson versus Marquez, minus 115. That's the Cards as the road favorite. Looks like a total of 12. Are you liking anything between the Redbirds and the Rocks today?
Yeah, the Cardinals playing really good ball right now. The Rockies, not so much, but the Rockies are always dangerous at home. They got a winning record at home. St. Louis losing record on the road. Concern I have here for actually both pitchers is they're not big strikeout guys, and they walk too much. Dakota Hudson, strikeout percentage 12.7, walk percentage 10.4. That's not a good combination in this ballpark, so that's something to be concerned about if you're a Cardinals fan. Marquez just hasn't been the same this year. Don't know if it's a health situation, but he hasn't played well. His strikeout percentage 18.6, walk percentage 8.1. So that hasn't been very good all season long for him. Down year for Marquez, but they got some runs yesterday, and I expect to get more runs here today. Normally, the last game of a series, I would think you'd have some quicker at-bats. Teams have to get out of town. And keep in mind, St. Louis plays that big series starting tomorrow against the Brewers. So St. Louis could be looking past the Rockies here. The Rockies did really good in the first game of this series, but I prefer the over here. I prefer both hitting staffs, hitting teams against the pitchers going for today. But the only thing that concerns me about St. Louis, once again, is that big series coming up with the Brewers. So this game did not make my card today.
Good points there, Brian. I was worried about that as well. The Cardinals looking ahead. But before I bet this one, I bet it towards the over. Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado are both in the middle of the Cardinals lineup, guys. Of course, this one going in about an hour. Tony, coming to you next. Brian hit on a lot of good points. Marquez, He used to be good in Colorado. You know, I'm sure that's why they signed him. And sure enough, this season, he's been awful. He's given up 14 home runs at home, only 6 on the road. So for whatever reason, he's only 2-5 in Colorado. Not really a bet on pitcher. And Hudson, to Brian's point, you know, whenever you're going to bet a game in Colorado, it's the most square footage out of any ballpark in MLB. So you don't want guys that get hit a lot. And sure enough, Hudson doesn't strike anybody out. So I wouldn't bet the under here either. These two teams have scored 35 runs combined the last 2 games, Tony. I like the over. What do you like in a mile high?
Well, it's always nice to have someone on the show, isn't it, that's contrary to both of you guys. And I'm not contrary. I don't disagree with anything that you two have just spoken to. The last time that Hudson pitched in this park, you had to go back to 2019. That was the year he had that that he was striking out more than he strikes out now. I think he was 16-7, 15-7, something that year, 2019. He pitched against Colorado twice that season. Both of them were he pitched well. In Colorado, actually, he pitched. It was a 2-1 final score. Colorado and St. Louis that year had back-to-back 2-1 final scores at Coors Field, which is, I don't know this for a fact. I can't say I know for a fact, but I would think that if you went back through history, you probably wouldn't find 2 straight games that were 3 runs and under at Coors Field. You would think the same thing, I'm assuming. But in this situation, really the key piece for me is the umpire, who is Dan Merzel. And if you know who Dan Merzel is, he's the strikeout king. He's the under king, in my opinion, simply because of his K zone. And I have had pitcher props on Merzel this year 8 times. Every single time it's been with the pitcher and over their strikeout total. 7-1. I am with those. Today, if you look at the props, look at Hudson's over K prop, -160, -170, depending on the store you're at, 2.5 strikeouts. Now, like you said, Hudson's a sinker ball pitcher, looks to induce ground balls. I'm over 2.5 strikeouts, even at a juice of 160 because of Merzel and because this Rockies team is less than if you put them against a right-handed starter. If they're left-handed starter in Coors, this offense has been okay. It really has been better than average. Against right-handers, less than average on the road, obviously, much less than average, averaging 3.5 runs a game. Then this game, I'm not on the other side. I'm not a big fan of St. Louis. I don't think their pitching staff is going to carry them past the Brewers in the next month and a half. But I do like Hudson over 2.5 strikeouts.
Interesting stuff, Tony. Glad you brought that up with the home plate umpire there. Tony, just quickly here, a follow-up question to you. I used to handicap that way a bunch. If it was a high strikeout umpire, definitely calculate that in. But with like K-zone and these umpires, supposedly getting graded a lot heavier the last couple years, is it still as important, Tony?
Well, I think that you think I brought up a good point. You brought up a good point. This isn't 2000. This isn't 1998. It isn't when we had no K zone. Umpires weren't graded with computers. Where we had some strike zones. I wrote a little short story, what I call a short story. It was a pamphlet on umpires back in '97, and I actually sold a lot of them. But the book became basically, the elephant in the room because then we went to computers and the strike zones. The guys now that are veterans have 200 or more home plate appearances. They're not really under the same kind of guidelines that these new millennials, the new millennial umpires that are coming in right now. Most of those guys are robots. They are, like you just said, they abide by this, and there's always variations. Obviously, everyone's different, but I don't put as much weight on it as I did then. But I still weight the umpire because you guys all know. One strike, a third strike in a certain situation can change an entire game, and especially if it wasn't a strike. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, good stuff, Tony. Like that you brought it up. We got 2 games left, guys. Best bets at the end, 7:10 Eastern in Fenway. 1-game series here, Tony. This is a makeup game from earlier in the season. We get Kremer going for the Orioles. He was supposed to go last night. I know because the bet I had on him got rained out, so he's just moving to tonight. Up against the Red Sox here, -$1.20, as high as -$1.25. That's the Sox is the home favorite here, Tony. 9 in the hook, the total. You liking anything in Boston?
I faded Boston 3 straight games or 2 straight games, with Atlanta. Their 2-game interleague series. Both of them were my dead presidents reports. Both of them were dead presidents reports where I played money line, -1.5, -2 in game 1. My money line -1.5, -2.5 in game 2. I pushed in game 1 because they won by 2. Swept the 3 yesterday. Been really profitable playing against Boston. Boston's still going to get a lot of love at home at Fenway. And Atlanta just came off that series where they kind of got stymied by a New York Mets team that has some hard throwing right-handers. That's where Atlanta's Achilles is. Listen. I was fading anybody and everybody that was playing Baltimore for a while. Yesterday, my free pick was against Baltimore, and mostly because I thought that they were due for regression, especially with the starting pitcher Kremer, and against a Toronto team that has the ability to explode. I'm not on this game, but if I was, I'm right back on Baltimore because I'm fading Boston, and especially their pitching staff right now that basically got used and abused the last 2 days.
Yeah, they've had the worst bullpen the last month here, Brian, talking about the Red Sox bullpen, and two teams heading in totally opposite directions. We get the Red Sox 11-25 their last 36. That's only 11 wins their last 36 games, as opposed to the second best record in baseball since July 3rd in the Orioles, Brian, 23-8 their last 31. This is the first time since 2016 the Baltimore Orioles are currently in a playoff position after August. So after August 1st, if the season were to end today, they're tied in the last AL wildcard spot. Something special is going on here in Baltimore. Most profitable team in baseball. I like the O's tonight. How are you feeling here, Brian?
It's the only way I would look in this one. Baltimore with a 5-game lead over the Boston Red Sox. Who would have thunk that? Boston's been outscored by 36 runs on the season. Boston's only 26-29 in Fenway Park. I remember years where they're winning 70-75% of their games at home. This just isn't the same team. Veteran team, I've talked about this in the past. When veteran teams are out of playoff position or they start to fade, they fade fast. And hats off to, as Tony mentioned, he's had success with it. Dave Koken also is a guy who is able to find a good spot to go up against some of these teams. So he's a Red Sox fan, and he's been fading the Red Sox since they started playing in Atlanta, and it's been correct in that regard. One quick note about the umpires. What's the point of grading the umpires if they never fire them? There's terrible umpires in Major League Baseball. They get graded. What are they doing? Saying you're not doing well? Unless you fire somebody, the threat isn't there. They're going to have to start doing something about that. The umpire unit is just too strong right now. But yeah, I prefer the Baltimore side here. When you take a look at Dean Kremer, his walk rate 5.8. That's excellent, and he's done very good. And this is one ballpark where you don't want to be walking players. Both pitchers have been hit pretty hard. Barrel rate 8.8 for Kremer, 10.1 for Winchowski. I like Baltimore here, and they're a team that's been winning on the road. Normally, your younger teams play well at home. They've been playing pretty well on the road lately. At this point, you wipe away the jersey numbers, you wipe away the lettering on the jerseys, and you look at the stats. Baltimore's the better team. I like the Orioles here.
All right. Look towards the O's, guys. Huge shout out to the chat box here. Professor Chris in the house. Sweet James Jones, Jeffrey Moore, C. James, Wisconsin guy. All you guys, thanks for tuning in. And please smash that like button if you're liking the content as we head to our last game before Best Bets. If you build it, they will come. Field of Dreams game tonight. The Cubs and the Reds from Iowa. Drew Smiley versus Lodolo, I believe is how you pronounce it here, Brian. Total of 9. -110 is what we're seeing the Reds as the short. They will be the home team, short home favorite. Keep in mind, this is in Iowa at Field of Dreams Stadium. Last year, it was a heck of a game. It was the most watched game, nationally televised, watched regular season MLB game this century, going back to before 2000. So likely be a lot of eyeballs here, a lot of tickets written. Brian, if you're betting it, what are you liking?
Yeah, when your wife starts asking me as I take her to work today if we're going to watch the Field of Dreams game, I know that this is a popular situation for everybody out there. I watched last year's, and I loved it. It was the most – I just loved watching it, the whole idea of it, and I'm glad they're back this year. Now they're not going to be there next year. I think there's some construction or something going on. But so take advantage of it tonight. If you don't have anything on your TV you're looking to watch, check out this game. I am concerned about the Cubs a little bit here. You take a look in the last 30 days against lefties, their WRC plus is only 45, tied with Miami for worst in Major League Baseball. It's a team that strikes out a lot. You take a look at the StatCast numbers. Now that they brought in Franmil Reyes from Cleveland, who is just striking out like crazy. He's at 36.8%. That's an improvement. He was over at 40% earlier this season. For Cleveland, excuse me, to let him go with the need for power that Cleveland has, that tells you they've given up on Franmil. He just does not make adjustments. Nothing upsets me more than a guy swinging for a pitch on the outside and trying to pull it. Happens all the time, and he's been that way all year long. When he's running well, he goes with the pitch. You haven't seen it, but it could be something this year if Chicago could get something out of it. That's a cheap bargain contract. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this when it comes to my best bet. I've got something other than the side on this game or total on this game I'm looking at. But excited to have this game, and it's nice that it's a reasonably priced game for both sides. More of a pickup situation, so it should be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one too. Tony, we got C. James in the house in the chat box saying he's making corn on the cob tonight in honor of the Field of Dreams game. Good stuff, C. James. Hopefully you enjoy it. You know, a couple things I took away here, Tony. One, last year it was 9-8. If you don't remember, Tim Anderson hit a walk-off home run to win it. It was a great game. There was 8 home runs hit in the game. It makes me look towards the over. However, it might have been an anomaly. It was the Yankees, the White Sox, kind of two good lineups last year, Tony. In looking at the dimensions of the field, it's the same as Comiskey Park. So it's not like, you know, some really short, you know, fences, anything like that. It's pretty regular. But 8 home runs from last year's game. I know it's only a 1-game sample at this park. Makes me look towards the over. I like the Cubs at the plus price as well, Tony. How are you feeling?
I haven't put it up on the board, and I should have. I was just typing a little bit. Hopefully you can hear me, but I'll have a best bet on this game on the side. What I'll say, as far as the total goes, if you've noticed, you've seen this total climb. It's steamed a little bit to the high side. Much of that may be from last year's high-scoring affair, but the weather was much different last year than it was this year. I think that's one of the things we don't know a whole lot about this venue, right? It's not like we get a game there every other day or 80 times a year, et cetera, right? So that said, I didn't even look at the total because of those things. I don't have enough info and intel, but I would say be wary of watching that steam going up. I think what's the total at right now? You guys see 9.5 maybe? At least that's what I was looking at earlier. So I can't tell you exactly what it is. I don't have it up, but I have a best bet in this game. I'd like to talk about, and that we'll do during the best bet segment, but I can't argue with anyone because this is one of those games that's it's kind of a novelty.
Yeah, it looks like it opened 8.5. It was 9. Depending where you're shopping, there's actually juice towards the under and the over, but it does look like 9 flat now, Tony. And Brian, before we get to best bets, you know, we both brought up, you know, 1-game sample size, can't make too much of it. But on the other side of that argument, Brian, you've been doing this successfully for a long time. You know, I'm thinking of when they've done different stadiums, like the Blue Jays, when they couldn't play in Canada, they played games in Buffalo. They played games at their minor league affiliate, Dunedin, in Florida. And there was a huge over trend, but it wasn't a huge sample size. So sometimes when this happens, we don't get a lot of runway. You know, you kind of can't wait on some of these trends. I remember some of the games played in Mexico; they were huge over games as well. Is this something that makes you kind of point towards an over in this, or no? You do need more sample size, in your opinion. In
my opinion, I can't mess with the total here because you really don't know what the batter's eye is, and that's your biggest concern. Yeah. Will the batter be able to see the ball well? Coming out of the corn or whatever they've got out there in the 1-game sample size. It saw pretty well last year, but they also had guys that hit 40 home runs. We're not going to run into that in this one. But, it's interesting how that works out. And, we'll see how it goes. To me, that you can't make too much of a judgment. You have to watch the game and see how the ball's flying out, which is one reason why I like to play a lot of live betting. You get the additional information, see how the ball moves, how the umpires call the strike zone. So that's something in this game. I think if you want to bet the total, that may be what you have to do.
All right, good stuff from Brian Leonard and Tony Finn. Check them both out, WagerTalk.com. Guys, a lot of free plays up and available. And we were talking about the lines. That's the WagerTalk live odds screen. The best free live odds in the industry. Check it out, the WagerTalk.com. And just click on live odds. It's all up there. You can go MLB. Now with football starting preseason, that's all up as well. We got college football week 0, week 1 lines up, sides and totals. So make sure to check that out, guys. WagerTalk live odds screen. We got best bets coming up right now. Tony, you were talking about one here you had circled, man. I'll throw it over to you. Any final thoughts for the show, and where are you going for best bets?
No final thoughts for the show. It's a short card today, so it shouldn't be and a lot of day games, right? I have one game, my only game of the day, going already right now. So, but I'll give the free. Again, I like the over 2.5 on Hudson. I mentioned that to you. I was actually going to release that to my clients, and then I got busy with something else, and it got too late, so I didn't. But we're going to go to the game we just talked a little bit about, and that's the Cubs and the Reds. And I like the Reds in the first 5 in this game, and most of this goes to the Reds prospect Lodolo. Since he's been recalled, I think it was early July, he's really been pretty good. 3.81 ERA, 4.43 FIP, which is close enough for me to believe he can perform to that level. He had a hiccup last time out against the Brewers when he had 4 walks, but that pimple really it doesn't really bother me. It's just one time. He's been good enough. He's pitching on an unfamiliar amount, but everyone else is too here. So Drew Smyly, not a guy that I really support. In fact, if I'm playing on a game that Smiley's in, it's typically I'm against him. So I'm on the Reds. First 5 -109 is the line I see.
Tony Finn. I'll follow that up with the early start here, guys. So we only got about 45 minutes until first pitch. So if you're watching live or pretty soon on replay, you can get down on this one. 3:10 Eastern, 12:10 Pacific first pitch. Hudson, Marquez, Cardinals, and Rockies. I'm on the over of 12. A couple reasons why. Hudson, the pitcher for the Cardinals, his strikeout to walk rate, 56 Ks, only 46 walks. I kind of said that wrong in terms of 56 strikeouts, 46 walks. That is not a good strikeout to walk ratio at all. In fact, it's the worst of any starting pitcher in Major League Baseball for any pitcher that's pitched over 80 innings. So I think the Rockies will put the ball in play a lot. And when you do that in Coors Field, good things happen. Also get a lot of walks. Marquez on the other side of things, he's really struggled in Coors Field. So I think the Cardinals lineup, which has their big boppers in Goldschmidt and Arenado, I think they'll get to Marquez. So I think both teams put up some crooked numbers here. They've scored 35 runs, guys, the last 2 games combined in this 3-game series, last one being today. So 35 runs in 2 games. I think they continue it here, get up and over the total of 12. That's my best bet. Cardinals, Rockies, over 12. Throw it over to Brian Leonard here, guys. 4 of the last 5 profitable seasons in MLB. He knows his college football as well. That's right around the corner. He's got 2 best bets for Thursday baseball. Check them out. Brian, any final thoughts and best bet for the show?
Yeah, my Twitter's going off a little bit, and so we got some breaking news in a different sport. Robin Lerner, the starting goalie for the Golden Knights, will be out for the season. That's a tough break for a team who didn't really do anything in the offseason, so we'll have to see. But that's the latest on that. And speaking of hockey, the number 1 NHL handicapper the last 5 years in net profit at WagerTalk. So hockey's also on the board. End of September, I believe, it starts preseason. So getting back to the game in Iowa today, I'm going to look at Nick Lodolo over in strikeouts. This is his rookie season. He come out early. Pitching in Cincinnati doesn't help him much, as that's a really good hitter's ballpark. But he's fared pretty well so far this season. You take a look at his StatCast numbers. Other than his walk percentage is 10%, and his SWOBA is 316. Everything else is in the red. I much prefer him in this game, and he's taking on a team in the Chicago Cubs, and I talked about this with Franmil Reyes up there. When you take a look at strikeout rates on this team, there's only really 2 or 3 guys that really don't strike out. Nico Horner does a good job of that. Ortega's not bad, and Nick Madrigal is a guy who slaps the ball around. But everybody else is major strikeout guys, especially Reyes and Wisdom. We've got, as I mentioned with Lodolo, This is a guy with a 29% strikeout rate. So I'd look for the Lodolo over 7.5 strikeouts at plus money tonight at plus 130. As we talked about, the batting eye could come into effect here, and we've got a lot of Chicago Cubs players that swing and miss. So I'll take Lodolo. I think he goes pretty well in this game and gets 6 innings, 5 to 6 innings in here, and has a lot of success striking out these Chicago Cubs batters.
It will be a fun one, guys, for the Field of Dreams game. Enjoy it tonight. Enjoy any games that you're watching and betting on. For Brian Leonard, Tony Finn, I am Drew Martin. Huge shout out to the chat box, and feel free to reply below, guys. Any questions, what you're betting on, all is welcome on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Guys, best of luck with your bets. Show will continue tomorrow, same time, same place. Thanks for tuning in.
With the quality slate of handicappers that WagerTalk offers, it is impressive to be on the leaderboard for any sports for any period of time. Imagine that 4 months into the season, you're number 1 in profit in the last 3 days, number 1 in profit in the last 7 days, number 1 in profit in the last 30 days, and number 1 profit for the season in a sport. Well, that's exactly what Tony Finn has done this year in Major League Baseball. Most customers already know the attention to detail that Tony has towards the MLB with his in-depth write-ups encompassing every part of the game, but if you don't know, it's time to find out. We have over 3 months of MLB action left as this regular season extends to October 5th, and the expanded MLB playoff starts thereafter with the World Series playing into November. Get the rest of the MLB season for $99 per month, coming out to only $297 with the coupon code TONY297. That's every MLB play Tony releases from now through the final game of the World Series for just over $3 per day.